Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Q&A live stream. I am Mod Acorn as your host, and with me is Mod Flippy.
Hello.
Mod Husky.
Yeah.
And Mod West.
Hey.
We have, like, doing live streams from home has its problems, as Mod West clearly experienced a couple seconds ago. But we are here, we're live. And we've got a few announcements before we start, like with every live stream. So, announcements. The first one is, you might notice that there's quite a few mods here that may have helped contribute to leagues. So, we've got our league-related mods here, and we'll be answering some of your league questions later on. But if you want to see the recent league poll blog, use the command ¡league poll. Also, Revenant Caves. We've recently released a statement regarding the state of Revenant Caves that you can find on our this week's game update news post. It goes through some of the suggestions by the community and our thoughts on them, including some information about where we are at now. If you want more information and to read that blog, use the command !revs. The August Gillinor Gazette has been released. We talk about roadmaps, partnerships, and introduce you to 3 new JMods, including Mod Sarni, who is here on the live stream to take your chat questions at OldSchoolRS. So if you'd like to read more about that Gazette, use the command !Gazette. Also, today, poll 73 was released. Just the blog, not the actual poll, guys. Yes, 73 in the chat. It's gonna happen. Joy. Yep, funny. This blog features some changes to the Nightmare, the Skull Scepter, and Chambers of Zerek. So if you want to read more about that, use the command !poll. And finally, Prime Gaming is here. You can get your 7 days of membership when you link your old school RuneScape account to Prime Gaming from now until the 13th of October. Use the command !Prime for more information. And I've been told to talk to you guys about what's coming in next week's game update, because a lot of you are asking, where's the Spirit Seed exchange? Where is the Dark Acorn changes? Alright, so next week's game update, assuming things go well in terms of QA, so we have to make sure things pass QA first, but we are planning to do the Spirit Seed exchange and the Dark Acorn and the Treasure Sack for the Hollowed Sepulchre. So just a heads up. That is what they have planned. It's only assuming everything goes well. I can't guarantee that it'll 100% go in, but this is what we're aiming for next week's game update. Cool.
It's the unfortunate thing with polls, right? You know, everyone's like, it's a fortunate thing with polls. Everyone's like, where's my update, the one I'm excited for? But we do kind of need to make sure that everything goes through QA. I think someone said, just change the XP for some things. That's like a 2-second job, but actually, in our game, we need to multiply all the XP by 10 in our backend, and it would be very easy to mistype a number and give way more XP than we wanted, right? Yeah, so I think it's funny.
It is also one of those things where we release a poll blog, like poll 73 that we just released the blog for, but when we do that, like, we can't realistically do every poll question as the update goes out next. We kind of have to, we'll try to like group them where they kind of see fit, but also, can QA test it? Can the devs do it? Is it something that isn't just a simple quick change? So it's one of those processes, is trying to like get what the community wants out first, but also what's realistic in our timeline. Else we could all just hold it off for about 2 months and you get nothing for 2 months until then. But I don't think people would like that. So as with every live stream, we always ask the guests, how are you doing today? Mod Flippy, do you want to talk us through what you've done the past week?
Sure. I'm well, thank you. I haven't really done much this week. I had my birthday this week. I turned 26, so yay me. I'm closer to 30 now than 20. But yeah, that's about it. Just been working, playing RuneScape. Phil's birthday, man. Thanks, chat.
You share the same birthday with Mod Archie. Did you know that?
Yeah, doesn't everyone? Yeah, I saw both of you turned 26, I think a day or so after me, probably. Or, yeah, after, I think. So that's cool.
Mod Husky, tell us about how you're doing and what you've been up to the past week.
I'm good. Today has been a busy day where I've been writing an article for the Gazette about the league's development and stuff, which apparently I like to type a lot, as much as I like to speak a lot. I remember back in school they were like, oh, go write a 500-word thing describing this, or go write 2,000 words on this, and I'd be like, oh, that's so difficult. And I've just written like almost 5,000 words on leagues that I'm absolutely going to have to print down because no one wants to read that, right? But as for me generally, I'm good. I think this week the biggest and most fun job I had was implementing the league Slayer lists so that we have a different Slayer task and that it all works well for the league. So that's been quite good.
Good. And Mod West, we come to you. How are you, and what have you been doing this past week?
Yeah, I'm alright. Just recently had a weekend away, a long weekend, so nice and rested for this week's work. What have I been doing? A mixture of different projects. I'm not going to go into much more detail than that.
Dabbling in here and there.
Indeed.
Cool. So I'm doing well. Thanks for asking, everyone. I know that everyone wants.
I was actually about to, but
Yes,
for once. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing well. I am in the process of. So Jagex gave us all these like mini home growing like herb kits, and Mod West and I are trying to compete with each other to see who's can. So you haven't even grown yours yet, okay?
How do you know? It's just a box.
Oh, okay.
It might be empty. It's not though.
Well, then, like, we found out that ours is just cress. So, and like, no offense, but I hate cress. It's just kind of pointless. So, alright, let's get into the league questions. So, we had quite a few league questions that carried over from the past league live streams. So I figured we have some of the mods here that could help answer those questions on behalf of the Warden's team. I figured we might as well go ahead and ask them now. What better chance than now? So, first question is from Cream Corns 81. That is not my alt, just letting you know that. Mod Flippy, what do you think of having the next leagues being constricted to content released prior to a certain date? Like a 2006 OSRS only content league. It would bring back nostalgia and make a new old meta.
Well, first of all, that's definitely your alt account. And secondly, so I read this and I kind of liked the sound of it at first, but then I kind of thought to myself that this very much goes against like the core concept of leagues, where you're supposed to, experience new, fresh, exciting content, try things you haven't tried before. And I think this could be really cool as like a separate game mode to maybe go on for a month or so, but I feel like it just kind of clashes with the core of leagues. That's my personal opinion on it.
Mod Husky, are you like talking or are you
It's muted.
Okay. Since someone's like, Mod Husky just answers all the questions, we should just mute him now.
Well, I quite like the idea of this, like locking it to 2006 content, but it does have its limitations. Obviously, the content back in 2006 wasn't really much end game stuff. And would it be limited to just content or like, quality of life stuff?
Yeah. Could get stale after a while.
Yeah.
Oh no. Husky is completely. Alright, we lost a man.
Oh no, he's back. He's back.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Is the mic quality any better? Probably not.
Better than it was,
Yeah,
which was
we can
frozen.
hear you.
So,
Okay. All I was going to say on your question was we actually had a pitch for that, right? Similar to that. I think it was like, what if we put the game back to what it was on 2007, but we like lock all the content, so like every week like a year of content comes out, right? You know what I mean? It was similar to that kind of thing. I think it would be harder to do things from back in 2006 when we'd have to implement the things that happened back then, But like anything that's already in the game, we could obviously just lock off and sort of do like a progressive thing, right? I think that league would be short-lived, kind of, because, well, we'd have like 7 weeks worth of content, I suppose, at this point.
cool. let's quickly move on to the next question before you DC again, because this one's for you, Mod Husky. Matty Max is asking, will Production Master Relic also affect magic crafting spells such as plank make, enchant jewelry, string jewelry, etc.?
No.
That was quick and to the point. Easy enough.
No, the idea was that we wanted to actually affect the production skills, and it would just get really complicated. It would work for all the magic stuff as well, and then at that point, it's helping you train magic quicker, perhaps, depending on how it's done. If it gives you full XP, and we're just like, it's already quite a complicated relic to do. We're just going to make it work for the standard stuff. So that relic is essentially, it will do what it says. It won't say what it doesn't say. Right.
So I'm just gonna say, for everyone that's asking, when is raids, when is league, when is everything? Okay, we don't have the set date yet on leagues until we are confident that we can deliver the date in terms of development. Once we have that, we will be sure to show you everywhere, not just on a live stream, in a news post, on social, everywhere. So once we have that, we'll let you know. In terms of raids 3, there's no plans for it right now. I think a lot of us in the team would like it, but currently there's no plans. So maybe one day, give us some design ideas. I'd love to see them, and then maybe we could look into it. But yeah. Alright, next question is for you, Mod Flippy. Stern Nuts is asking, could we have the option to permanently unlock the Twisted House theme with the Twisted Blueprints, similar to how it works with the Hesidious Blueprints?
Well, so this is actually, ideally, that's how I kind of would like it to work. We did this with the home teleport, that you consume it and unlock it permanently. And it's really kept up its price due to that. I guess I like the idea of it myself, but we pulled it in a different way. We pulled it in its current state, and players voted yes to it. And I think it will just stay like this for now. I'm open for maybe changing it in the future, but yeah.
I think for me as well, it's easier to have something so cheap like a home teleport override as far as league points to consume itself, because there's still going to be plenty of them in the game. Or something like blueprints, if it was consumed, you'd eventually see them, it'd be discontinued eventually, right, if people unlock it. Although I still think we could maybe do something to help that interface be, give it an interface for changing how your house looks or something, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't be discontinued though, because you'd still be able to get them. It's just that it would be less of them in the game.
It could theoretically be at a point where none of them are available at this moment in time until we release a new league, right?
Sure, yes.
And that might not be desirable.
Right. This next question is for you, Mod Husky, and it's by Redacted, so their name got removed. I don't know what it was before, if anyone asks. Where is the Abyss Fairy Ring located on the map? I know you haven't specified if fairy rings will be available, but are you able to answer, if you can, is there a fairy ring there regardless of unlocked locations? And will a location need to be unlocked for access to it?
Sure. So fairy rings are going to be unlocked as part of Mistlin. You will get a Dramen staff. I think we're just adding a bunch of them to your bank at the start. I can't remember. So you will get access to Xanaris. We consider Xanaris part of Mistlin for this league, which kind of leads us to, if we consider Xanaris as part of Mistlin because its entrance is in Mistlin, kind of the same as the dungeon logic, what about all these weird planes that exist, like the Gorak plane, the Cosmic plane, the Abyss? Where do they sit? And our logic for that was, if ultimately the source is Xanaris, and Xanaris is part of Mistlin, they should be also part of Mistlin, right? It's not perfect. I guess we always have to make these weird exceptions for what's included in the league and what's not, right? It's not specifically, this is Mistlin, and it's only things that the game has identified as the kingdom of Mistlin, right? We're just calling this collection of the world Mistlin so that it's got an identifiable name to the players in the league, right? And then there might be a few exceptions like Fossil Island where we've added it. It'll all be documented on there. But that, yeah, so when you'll be able to fight the Abyssal Sire and stuff and go and do that sort of stuff from Mistlin. But obviously a fairy ring that goes to a completely different area, it'll be inside that area if that's part of the overworld, if that makes sense. But yeah, I hope that kind of explains it. All of this information will be on the interfaces in game, right? So this isn't like if you didn't see this live stream, you don't know. We're going to try and make this as clear as possible what you're getting and why. And yes, this does mean that everyone will have access to whips as well, which is kind of a nice thing that they at least have an above dragon tier weapon available to everyone. You know.
A lot of players are saying that Xenos is on the moon. We are aware of Xenos is. You access it through Mist.
I mean, have you seen the moon in game?
Yeah, just look up.
Where's this going? Ultimately, we have to just decide, hey, we're looking at every single part of the game, and we need to categorize it somewhere, right? And this one, we felt the best design choice was to categorize it under Mist.
It felt right. TLDR.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you want to talk a little bit, because you did mention like it will be on an interface? Do you want to talk about like what will be on the interface, or do you want to save that for another time?
Yeah. I mean, loosely speaking, I mean, I kind of talk about it in this Gazette piece I'm writing of all the information that's there, and we keep adding more and more information to this thing, right? Because areas themselves are complicated, right? You've got to make a choice that affects the rest of your league progression. You want to make absolutely sure exactly everything you're getting. And just as an overview, like, once you click on the part of the world that you're considering unlocking, you'll get a more detailed screen. It'll have an overview, which just sort of tells you what towns does it consider to be part of it, which shortcuts are blocked off, that sort of thing. Any travel options like charters, it covers all that sort of stuff. There's a key info tab, which is just a quick breakdown of a list of the towns, a list of the notable PVM activities, a list of the notable skilling activities, and then finally, the way we're doing Slayers, each area will just add a bunch to the list of creatures, depending on the area it unlocks. It'll tell you which creatures are going to be added to your Slayer list as a result of unlocking it. Then you've got the unlock section, like another tab, that will just tell you these quests will be auto-completed, these diaries will be auto-completed, etc., and any other kind of unlocks that we consider we need to do for that. And then finally, there's like a drop section, which we kind of talked about drop rate modifier. I think there'll be more detail in this blog I'm talking about, but it identifies exactly, hey, if you're getting double the drop rate or half the drop rate, however you want to look at it, more common, right? These are the drops that are affected, because obviously we can't plug it into everything in the game globally, right? We need to break it down, so it will tell you exactly what is affected. As well as having a nice little slideshow of like little pixel art of the overworld map. Credits to Mod West for that. You can actually check out his Twitter if you want to see Mistel in its glory on a slideshow.
I think ideally with sorry, what?
Longer answer than I thought, but that kind of covers roughly, like this is the level of detail we want, Yeah,
I think ideally with these interfaces and descriptions, we want to give the player a good enough idea of exactly what the area will entail and what you will unlock, to the point where they have absolutely no questions when they unlock that area. We're trying to describe exactly what you will get without even, you shouldn't have the need for a picture in order to explain kind of the limits, because we're all describing that in the text. But then you, of course, get the images on top of that. So we want you guys to be very, very prepared once you actually unlock an area.
And all the areas will be out before the league's out. And then whatever point that is, we hope to have as much of this information released as well. So it's not all just day one, I need to read everything about 9 areas. If you're wanting to strategize ahead of time, you'll know. We're just not at that point yet to reveal. So...
And Sosa Dude is asking for you, Mod West, will Pixelor be in the game then?
Technically, in a way. It'll only be in those little snapshots. You won't get to see the whole thing as a whole, but there'll be something else to look at, that's for sure.
Cool. I'm really excited. I think I've not seen a slideshow in our interfaces before, so I thought it was like probably the coolest thing I've ever seen before. When like it actually moves without clicking it. It's pretty cool. Alright, the next question is for you, Mod Flippy. GL I'm Tom is asking, in the last league we saw several players account sharing for ranks. Has there been any effort to stop this in the future leagues? Solutions could include daily playtime caps, a better balance between skilling and PVM points, or strict rules enforcing them throughout.
Right, of course. So there's only so much we can do as content devs to help with this issue. We have been looking into solutions, and we do have one solution in mind that we're going to try out for this league. We're going to work super close with analytics. I think we have already, and it's in the works. And we want ultimately this to have little to no impact to like normal players, but meanwhile somewhat battling the problem. But as I said, we can only try so much, and I don't think I want to talk exactly about what it is at this point because it's currently in the works. But I can probably give a more detailed explanation of what it is once it's done.
Cool. The next question is for you, Mod Husky. Dingo is asking, will LMS be available on they say Twisted Leagues. I think they mean to say the Trailblazer League for the Wildy area, and if so, will the rewards also be obtainable?
No, a lot of the base LMS code is tied to work to a specific map flag, and we didn't really want it. We thought it'd be quite complicated to make it suddenly work for other ones, and then to turn them off after. It was just something that we decided not to go ahead with this. We think the Wilderness has got enough content in it, and it's certainly not struggling for points as far as a balancing perspective. So we've decided that LMS will not be a part of the Trailblazer League.
Cool. And this one is for you, Mod Flippy. Dad Milk is asking, with leagues being limited to only a few worlds, will there be instances added to God Wars Dungeon, or will we just hope that players won't crash us since everyone will be an Ironman?
I'm a bit unsure of this myself. We've discussed it before, me and Husky at least, I know. There are several solutions. Instances is not the only solution to the problem. And I think we probably need to have a separate discussion about that issue in particular. It's not only God Wars either. So if we can do something about it, I'd like to address it.
Okay. The next question is for you, Mod Husky. Lil Cutie Forever is asking, in the Leagues 2 livestream, Husky mentioned developments had been made that enabled referencing a player's location in the game world and then using that as a check to ensure the player hasn't entered a zone they shouldn't be able to enter. Could this system also be used to enable zone-based clan chats, i.e. a clan chat specific to Lumbridge or Wintertod? Could this lead to more person-to-person chat interaction?
Something like this would be awesome. And the system that I've developed for this league is definitely a start to making something like that happen. It's just not to the granularity that players would want it to be, I guess, for this kind of system. An example would be, right now, the system that we developed can tell you that you're in Mistlin. But it can't tell you right now whether you're in Lumbridge or Rework, right? We just haven't added that sort of level of the granularity to it, right? It's just, hey, there's a script, and it checks a bunch of coordinates, and if any of them hit true, it returns Mistlin. Right? We could go and change that and say, instead of returning true for being in Mistlin, we could return, okay, these ones is Lumbridge and these ones is that. It would have been a massive job for no gain in this league currently, right? Because right now we don't care whether you're in Varrock or Lumbridge. We only care if you're in Mistlin, right? So this job was already massive, and we didn't want to perhaps add any bugs to it or add any more uncertainty to how good the system is yet, but it could definitely be expanded upon in the future.
Cool. Alright, the next question is for you, Mod Flippy. Belinda, with 2 A's, is asking, with the new league, if a quest is marked off for us, do we miss out on any XP we would have gained from doing it?
So yes, you do. We have played with a few different. We tried playing with the idea of unlocking certain content without actually completing the quests, but that turned out to be about 10 times more work. So we had to resort to this idea, so we would have the time to do all the other things we had to do for the league. But you can still do the quest before you unlock it. So there is still an option for you to do the quest, get the rewards, and then just have it auto-completed through unlocking an area, for example. So the option is still there.
Also has the strategy, right? A good example would be, if an area unlocked Waterfall, but you could complete Waterfall without unlocking that area, you could choose to unlock Waterfall and get the 5x XP, and then unlock the area, and you basically just got the XP. But also that still takes time to do it. You know.
Yep.
Redacted is asking Mod Husky, how will underground areas work in the Trailblazer League?
If the above ground entrance is counted in an area, the underground likely is. There's a few exceptions where we have to pick one or the other, like the underground area spans underneath both, and we just essentially lock it on one side and say it's part of the other one. The area interface I described earlier will explain which ones are part of which. Yeah.
And our last league question before I move on to the next set of questions, for those asking if this is a league-only question live stream, no, it is not. Corex is asking, Mod Flippy, can we get an official map of the Trailblazer League zones so we can start planning ahead?
Well, we get these questions a lot, but okay, listen up here, chat. Ignore the other JMods for a while. It's just you and me here. I gotta be real with you. We JMods, we've been keeping some secrets for you. And I know, the game devs keeping secrets from their players, it's bad. But sometimes you gotta keep secrets so that when the time is right, you can then reveal them, kind of like a surprise birthday party or something. And I know there's gonna be this funny guy in the chat who's like, I hate secrets. Well, you do you. But we have a plan for exactly when and how to reveal these secrets. So you cannot have the exact map right now, but you'll be pleasantly surprised when you get it. So sorry about that, but that's just kind of how it is in this case.
This sounds like you're telling children, you know, if you don't eat your vegetables, you won't get dessert.
Yeah.
Flipping will make a great parent.
Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening to Mod Flippy's TED Talk. Alright, so we also have a lot of questions on minigames. It's kind of a discussion that's been going on ever since we released the blog on the fishing skill boss. It seems to have generated a lot of questions about minigames in general. So we figured, why not answer some of the questions that have come up. I would like to preface this with the fishing skill boss blog isn't just final, like we're not going straight to poll and just hoping that everything passes. We want to communicate with you guys a little bit more based off of your feedback, and I know that the team is working quite hard on trying to nail a design that is different than just kind of standing there fixing something and cooking something and throwing it. So I know that they want to bring it back to you guys with some really cool information. I don't have a date yet on when that's coming because some things have also come up since. But once we have that, we'll send it out to you guys and let you know what is in this new fishing boss blog. Alright, the first question I'm going to ask Mod West here, who's just taken a look at the idea. T-Dun is asking, what are your thoughts on Sick Nerd's idea for fishing Trawler? It would be great to see Trawler given a big update and a lease on life.
I could definitely agree with the last part. It definitely does need some form of update. It's certainly some content that, I mean, I've not even touched my Iron Man just because of how everyone talks about it. It's not very appealing, and yeah, certainly lacks compared to other minigames. It's pretty brain dead. So, I mean, I gave a quick read to what Sick Nerd said. It does seem quite cool. It does seem like a rather large change to the basic concept of the trawler. I mean, the basic idea is that you're going out on a boat, you got to fix it as it falls apart, and ultimately it's catching fish as you go. Turning it into more of almost like a raid in a way where you get attacked by bosses, it might make it a bit too different, depending on how those demi-bosses sort of work out. It definitely needs some work. I think that may be a bit too far personally, but yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I know that, so for context for the players, we have released the Poll 73 blog asking for your suggestions as well. So we do need your suggestions on how you would revive, even just reviving mini games, your thoughts on it. no suggestion is too small or too big. Feel free to go all full forest, black background, yellow text, go for it. But yeah, we're taking those suggestions on board. We're gonna look through them and then see like what can we offer. So feel free to check out that Pulse NET log. All right. Speaking of fishing trawler, this is for you, Mod Flippy. I only bail, which is actually a very fitting name for this question. Can we get a kill count for fishing trawler, or at least a way to keep track of how many successful trips we have made, sort of how agility lap counters work?
I think that would be entirely possible. I don't think we're counting the KC currently, unless we're doing it in secret, and I don't know about it. But I think we could just add one and start counting it from now, if everyone really would want that.
Right. Next question. Okay, Gandhi is asking Mod Husky. Can the need to select furniture be removed from Mahogany homes, as it is dictated by your Mahogany home contract, i.e. each level requires a different wood as far as I'm concerned, so tier 4 contracts require Mahogany planks. Having to pick space that's less redundant is just inappropriate for your contract.
I definitely agree with that. I actually pitched the question to Mod Arcane, since he was the primary dev working on the design part of this, to see what he said. What he said is it definitely could be removed. It was brought up very late in a playtest, but he left it in because this is kind of weird, it felt better. Like, it was more impactful because you were like right-clicking build and then selecting what to build, right? You know, there was like this sort of, instead of just click build and done. I know players might not care about that for efficiency, but it was just kind of like that's kind of what Construction's core loop was from what he's saying. Maybe he said he's overthinking it, and it could just be simpler without it. It's kind of a subjective thought, you know, whether you require that extra action to make it feel like Construction or whether it's not. If you removed it, though, it would certainly increase the points per hour and XP per hour, so I don't think that's something we should choose lightly. Like, one less click is still something, right? So, and then, yeah, it's interesting. I think it would. I always thought, like, when I read the original design, I thought it would be cool if you could choose which tier to build, and then maybe the person like would be happier if you built a higher tier one and would give you like a tip or something for your time. You know, like because you went the extra level and gave them Mahogany instead of you went the extra and gave them Mahogany when they only asked for oak. You know, but
I love when that happens, when I order like an oak chair from IKEA and they suddenly deliver a mahogany chair. It's the best feeling in the world.
It's like, LOL, scammed, thanks, have a nice day.
But
from like graphically, if you would look at that though and have like a big mix of like woods, it might start to look a bit mismatched. So I could sort of agree that it should sort of be consistent that way, but I do kind of quite like that UI because it's weird, it does make sense, but it does make it feel more like Construction, even though it's just a little UI.
And I think having a skill identity is super important to decide, right? Because you can distill a lot of the skills down to basically the same thing, right? The only thing that makes smithing different from like crafting is that you had to go to an anvil, right? You know, whereas crafting you use a knife.
Don't tell them.
Right? But it's essentially the same thing, right? Or like cooking is the same as smithing, but you go to a range and make food, right? And you have a chance to burn. I think there's small little things that like the core gameplay loop's the same, but I don't know. I think something about having a menu and selecting which item to build just feels kind of like Construction, you know?
I can't wait to now see, like, you know, the astronaut with the other astronaut behind it, and it's like, it's crafting, and then he's like, it always has been.
Like the basic like resource gathering skills, it is pretty much like you're just hitting a different resource with a different thing, right? It's just like, you know, fishing, wood cutting, you know, it's all quite the same action.
And I think that's like probably the original developers, like the Gower brothers, had this realization, right? There's a reason that trees have a 1 in 8 chance to fall and fishing spots move, and ores are only mined one at a time, right? It's the same thing, but that small difference makes you like think like differently about the skill, right?
Yeah.
Just slightly.
Yeah.
So you're ready to put in an additional like 150, 200 hours just because of that slight difference, you know? It's good.
Yeah, imagine if mining just like you could just sit there and it was like fishing, right? Or wood cutting, you know?
Or when you chopped a tree down, it just sort of walked away.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Mandrew is asking on the topic of Mahogany homes. There is no reason to request a lower level contract for farming or Mahogany home contracts. Every time you request a contract, you are asked which level you would like, and every time you select your highest one anyways. Can we please get a left click option added to these NPCs to just request a previous contract? I don't find it hard to believe that the contract givers would remember you, especially if you're constantly asking which contract you want.
Yeah, I passed this on to Arcane as well, and he just said he wonders if the previous contract would be an additional one or replace the current contract. But regardless, he likes it, right? The idea that, yeah, if you wanted to change it, you would like go talk to them and go through the long dialogue to select a lower tier one. I don't think there's a problem with that, right?
Cool. On the topic of minigames, pest control was brought up. Not pest control, sorry, I saw the word pest on here. It's Barbarian Assault. World is asking Mod West, can the Penance Queen get a pet like Dust reward so that it could be any NPC in Barbarian Assault? Thank you and have a nice day, with a smiley face.
It's a very polite question. I like it. Yeah, I mean, it's very viable. I would wonder where the dust would come from to transmog the queen, and I mean, the queen's already probably one of the rarest pets, right? So if that was even rarer, then it might be a bit tedious. But yeah, I quite like that. You know, you get one of those creepy one-eyed things following you around. That'd be quite cool.
Then you could wear like the hat as well, and then just be like, "Don't ever talk to me or my son ever again."
Oh, that'd be perfect. Even like the fighter one as well. If you get the fighter hat and the fighter also, that'd be pretty good. Do some good RuneScape.
There's one more questions before I come in, so I'm just going to try and dip and try something to fix my mic. So don't worry, I'll be back in a bit.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Don't worry, the next question's for you, Mod Flippy, anyways. Kazir is asking, with the recent additions of Tithe Farm and Mahogany Homes, great updates by the way, could there be a Herblore minigame added to the level, to level your skill?
Was there a smiley face in this question?
There was not, sorry.
Alright. Well, I think there's definitely room for smaller skilling minigames, especially where there are kind of gaps for interesting content in skills. I'd be cautious to I'd really like to keep the identity of each skill. So Herblore, for example, is built around collecting the herbs and secondaries in return for really fast XP when you combine them. And I think that core concept should always stay. Even if there's a new minigame or a new method of training the skill. So I wouldn't want something where you can just consistently grind Herblore for like 70k XP an hour, you know. But I think there's definitely wiggle room there, and yeah.
Yeah, I had an idea in the past where it was sort of like a Herblore minigame where you sort of played the role as a healer. With the idea would you take in your own herbs, but you'd have like a cauldron within this dungeon that you could use, and it would only take a single herb, but you'd make more potions that you'd then be able to give out to, say, a bunch of adventurers that you're helping get through this dungeon. And I thought that was quite a cool idea to sort of keep that as core Herblore mechanic, but you're required to use herbs still, but you can make them go a bit further without affecting the price of the economy and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely lots of good ideas, and also pairing that with farming as well would be quite cool.
Nice.
Mod Flippy, there was a question in the chat. Would your answer have changed if there was a smiley face in that question?
Yeah, I would have said yes instantly.
Well, there you go, guys. If you want your suggestion instantly put in from the devs, put a smiley face in your suggestion. Alright, the next question is for you, Mod West. J-Dose is asking, would you ever consider reworking the Trouble Brewing minigame? Currently, it's only used for getting an achievement diary task checked off.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see whether the problem with Trouble Brewing is more to do with the contents, game, mechanical loops that you do while playing the game, or whether it's just it's not really worth doing it because there isn't really much out of it. Maybe if there was a dedicated world that you could only play the game on, maybe that would get a bit more attention, but I think you need to sort of approach the minigame put down just to sort of see where it's failing. Maybe good opportunity to like look into like brewing in general and sort of improve that entire system, and have that give rewards to that, so it actually has some out of game sort of main world benefits for doing the minigame. Because currently, just getting that. I mean, the player outfits are pretty cool, but clearly not enough to get a lot of people involved.
No, unfortunately not. So this next question is for you, Mudhusky, about trouble brewing, and it is a kind of a suggestion. Maybe that might actually help. They're asking, thoughts on allowing infinite run in trouble brewing? In teams, you run out of energy very quickly, even with 99 agility and full graceful. Since there's no bank and you're not allowed to bring in items, there isn't enough time in between games to restore your energy.
So, testing, is my mic working?
Yes.
Is it better? is it better or not?
I think it's like the same.
Maybe.
Okay, so this was... I'm using a different browser, and I definitely told it to use this mic, so I don't know what's going wrong. But as for the question, I think that trouble brewing has bigger problems than just running out of energy, right? And I think the biggest one is that you would probably want it to have a worthwhile reward, right? That people actually want to do the content. Because that's kind of the thing, right? Pest control is not a good minigame. But people do it because it's got an insane reward like Void, right? Keeps people coming back, right? I think that's kind of important for minigames to do well. As for the infinite run energy suggestion, I don't think tacking on infinite run energy to me is just the thing we sort of should do. It makes sense for LMS, right? Because there's never really a chance you would have anything to restore. We don't really want to give you staminas and stuff. But I prefer the implementation similar to how it's Sepulchre, right? Where you have to go do a thing out of your way slightly to get the energy. Even in trouble brewing, if it was just you need to drink from the brew you made, right? To restore your energy, right? Just something a bit more thematic to just, you suddenly never tire in this minigame, right? I know that Sepulchre is a very small inconvenience, but I think just something to tie it towards the feeling right in minigame would be better for me if you wanted to implement that mechanic. But I think it needs a bit more than that. And I think as well, trouble brewing just kind of needs like a lot of its interfaces and interactions kind of adjusted. That might not be enough. It might have core problems with its gameplay and rewards still, right? But there's definitely some things that can be done to make those interfaces nicer, make it clearer what you need to do as well.
Yeah, I mean the minigame as a whole just might be a little bit just too complicated. The general loop of things, because it's not really something that you do on a regular basis. So every time you go, you're like, oh, how do I do this again? Get the book out, give it a read. So, yeah. But yeah, I can definitely agree with making the actual energy restore part of the minigame itself would feel a lot better than just giving it.
I've seen a few people in chat suggesting to just add a pet to trouble brewing. What are your thoughts on a trouble brewing pet?
I mean, that would certainly get the pet hunters involved.
It would definitely it would definitely get people playing it, right?
Yeah. Wish you like a giant vat and just following you. Maybe just a pint of beer.
Alright, so let's get through our miscellaneous other questions that have come up. Zero EHP is asking Mod Flippy, can we have a right-click examine once getting a drop from a boss or a monster that shows you its drop rate? I.e., a Dragon Warhammer from Lizardman Shaman's right-click examine shows 1 out of 5,000 in the right-click examine.
I think I don't think I'd want that as a player nor game dev actually. I think it's alright revealing stats for people who are really looking for it, like what we do when we wait a while and then we maybe release the drop rates after some time has passed. I don't think that's something I'd ever want to shove in the face of a player. So I think there's definitely some magic to not knowing all the systems and all the numbers that go on behind the scenes. I think that kind of ruins the experience when it's taken to a certain degree. So I think those things are just probably better left, to the people who actively look for it.
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that.
Yeah, I feel a bit fourth wall breaking, just directly telling you the drop chance.
The next question is for you, Mod Husky, and it is from Cena Babe. They're asking, possibly add a corrupted attachment to the Elder Maul to make it a little bit more viable against monsters in the game. Currently, the Cudgel is a bit better than the Elder Maul at Nightmare.
Like, so first of all, they've just said put an attachment, but they haven't said where it comes from, right? And I think that's important. Maybe it's a thing from Chambers, but if it's coming from Chambers anyway, should we, like, just buff the Maul instead? It seems like a roundabout way. The Maul is already really good at what it does. The problem is it just doesn't have a lot of places to do its thing, right? It's not supposed to be a sustained sort of, like, DPS weapon, right? It's supposed to be a good last hit weapon, you know? Like, it's really good in those sort of PvP sort of matches, right, where you want to get one big hit in. Instead, if you don't have a spec, you just switch to an Elder Maul. I think that it's got a niche at Tecton it's pretty good for. I know Inquisitor's Mace beats it out, but just because the Maul happens to be on a 6-tick cycle versus Tecton's 3-tick that you need to do helps a lot. And I think that there's potentially room to sort of add content that that fits that bill more. Like, I remember I actually got mine 3 days before Theatre of Blood was released. I was a player at the time, and I was thinking, I'm not excited about this. But if Theatre of Blood has a mechanic where you need to kill something, like, in as few hits as possible, or, like, kill something really quickly, like, and maybe you just need one solid big hit to do that, this could be quite interesting, right? It turned out Theatre of Blood didn't, but I think that does, as a developer, make me think, like, you know, we have so much emphasis on high attack speed, you know, more attack speed, better, right? I would love to see things put in where, like, either there's, like, a recoil effect, or maybe there's, like, a thing where, like, the boss does more damage the more hits they take as the fight goes on, or something like that, right? So you're incentivized to take a lower, slower weapon, right? I think stuff like that could be really cool, and I think that could open up a lot of places for the Elder Maul. I don't think it needs to necessarily be better than, like, Cudgel at Nightmare, because, you know, Cudgel was designed to be a straight-up DPS weapon, not a big last-hit thing, right? And I think that adding a buff to it is slightly scary just because of its PvP implications, right? If you increase its max hit by, like, 2, or something like that, that could be quite big, you know?
Alright. The next question is for you, Mod West. The player spelled the names of these towns wrong, so I'm going to say exactly how they spelled them, because why not? Yay LMAO is asking, in the Kourend overhaul mentioned in the Gazette, is Mod West going to be covering the other Zaya cities as well? Shazen is already confirmed, but I think Piscarillo, Arcanus, and Lova Kane are in need of some remapping to look more natural and clean.
I honestly think we should just rename it to Piscarilla, because or Piscarillo. It's funny that. But yeah, definitely. So far we've got the Hesidius rework done. It was quite successful, and I've posted a map in the past. I think that's at the beginning of the year, maybe last year, about the Shazian rework. Initially, I started with the southern houses of Zaya because they are technically the easiest ones to approach because they had the more space around them. Hesidius could quite easily be shrunken, quite easily. But the other three, they're all quite close together, so they would have to be tackled ideally all at once. I have some in the like work in progress sort of reworks for Lovacane and Arceus, or Arcanus, however they said it.
That's how they said it.
And but I've not really looked at Piscarillius much, but I've seen quite a few player reworks of Piscarillius, which I quite like. I know I've got there's like a subreddit OSRS maps where people have posted a few. For the Piscarillius one, there's 2. One by Darkblade, who sort of did both Arceus and Piscarillius at once, and it's got quite a nice blending there. That actually maybe reworked the entire Arceus rework that I had planned, because yeah, he did a lot better job of moving that around. The main issue with Piscarillius is that it does have a lot of content based on the actual current layout, so the artifact Beaver gathering thing, thieving work is it's very dependent on the current layout, so that would have to change quite a lot, and we'd have to be quite concerned about the current rates of it and how that would affect that. there isn't really a good way of reworking it without affecting that though, so that would almost certainly have to change. The other houses are a bit easier. There isn't all the like important content in Lidocaine is all around the outside, so they can be unaffected by any major reworks. And then with Archaea, the only main thing would be the library, which would be a bit of a pain to change how that works now. So everything would have to be moved around that ideally. Yeah, there's definitely some plans in the work. I look forward to showing more about that in the future. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about that now.
In the Shazen area, are you planning to keep that one gap in between some of the warriors that are doing the jumping jacks? There's like missing spot there. Right. Okay, good.
Yeah, so based on the map that I released a few months ago on Shazen, I sort of took the thing that I disliked about Shazen is that it wasn't really much history to the area. It very much felt like they were living in tents for 1,000 years, which always seemed a bit strange to me. So the idea there was to take the warfront section of it and put that close to the Lizardmen, and keep the little slot where you can take if you want to, and then have like an actual town and city that actually were the main operations of the Shazians live and work and all that. And mentioning that that missing person from the trading section, I do kind of want to like base a little mini quest around that as well, because that'd be quite an interesting, like, where's this guy gone? Where's he? So yeah.
Cool. The next question is for you, Mod Husky. J626 is asking, after the Porcine of Interest quest, the Slayer Helm acquired new goggles, but the look did not change at all, and they put that in caps. So I think they're very, very adamant. Why, and was it ever considered?
Yes, it was considered. The biggest reason is that we have a lot of Slayer Helm configs, right? Like item configs in game. And it's not a case of lazy dev, it's actually having a system that's manageable, right? It would be very hard to have a variant of the Slayer Helm that only had the goggles after you did the quest. We'd have to change all of your existing items into new items that had the new model, right? Because we can't change the model based on a variable for player items, right? And then it would just get really messy, I think, at that point. But it would also be really weird if you had all of the Slayer Helms update to look like they had goggles for people who hadn't done the quest, right? So I think there's no sort of happy way to do that. That's just generally the reason. I don't think we'd be opposed to changing the Slayer Helms so they all looked like they had the goggles, and the assumption being that, like, yes, someone might have it without the quest. I think we'd want to poll it, though, because it's not an objectively correct thing as much as the person said at all in the thing, right? Some people are going to like it with red visors and some people are not, right? And the thing is, like, I think as someone else in the chat, right, we have so many Slayer Helm variants that probably this wouldn't even affect, right? I think this would kind of just be the default ones. It still comes down to that sort of weird tidying up of people's items and replacing them and all this sort of nonsense, right? I think the way we've implemented it is fairly reasonable for what it is. The recipe changes and then your helms get upgraded for free after the quest. So yeah, that's just kind of the thoughts and reason about it. It's definitely something that could be done. It just wouldn't be a nice implementation, right? And for very little gain, actually, right? How often do you actually see the player's eyes on their model? You see it in chat heads sometimes, but then if you're wearing a Slayer Helm, you're often not speaking to NPCs, you're killing things, right? So yeah, I don't think it's the biggest issue in the world.
Yeah,
could you even see the nose peg? Like,
no.
Which is also a head slot. That's for.
Yeah.
I suppose it also takes away from the boss helms as well, because they do have those sort of, technically they got the goggles in them, because you can see those sort of coloured eye slots.
I just saw someone in chat say, but you shouldn't have the Slayer Helm before the quest. I'm pretty sure every person who had a Slayer Helm before that, the day that came out, had the Slayer Helm before the quest, right? We can't assume that someone is going to do the quest at the logical place in count progression, because, there's so... Maybe if the quest was there on release, but not now, So I think it's very reasonable that someone could not have the quest completed, right? And I think there's even a lot of people who are choosing not to because they don't want the quest K bonuses, they don't care for it, right? Because they don't want Sour Hogs on Turiel's list, right? Or Sprea's list or whatever, So.
All right. The next question is for you, Mod Flippy. FBI Macklin is asking, Could you implement personal best timers to more bosses like Cerberus and such? The element of competition could encourage more people to do more bossing doing Slayer tasks in general instead of doing a normal monster. Monkers.
So, who's being hunted? 5 stars. Alright, no, I think with PBs, it's like, I always imagine that eventually we'd get that in for most activities, most time-based activities in the game and most bosses in the game. Now, as for implementing it sooner rather than later, I never saw PBs as something that would be, the main motivation to start doing a boss. It's like you don't just stand at your bank. You're like, what should I do? Well, my PB isn't so good at Serb, so now I'll go do it. But then again, it's nice to have. So I wouldn't see it as a priority, but eventually I'd like to see it on basically all the bosses.
I think the difficult thing for some of the bosses in the main game world compared to ones in instances is when's the start time? Right? Is it when the boss spawns? Is it when the boss takes damage? That's a lot of code suddenly running on core damaging script, right? It's much easier to do it on the boss spawning because that code runs so much less often than the damage scripts, So I think that's one of the big reasons Cerberus doesn't have it. If we ever had an instance version of Cerberus, it would be pretty easy to do, but then that raises the question, should we have an instance version of Cerberus, right? Because that has other issues.
Also, I stand corrected because apparently chat is 80% speedrunners who definitely do that when they bank stand.
I would like to add...
I'd like real speedrunners don't bank stand, right?
Right, touche.
The best part about this was the question was from FBI Macklin, and then the moment that happened, you just get like alarms outside of your house. So you can answer. Alright, we've only got time for one more question, unfortunately. Unless Husky's answer is really quick on this one, then we'll see how it goes. Knight Lou is asking, Mod Husky, thoughts on letting Ironmen buy bonds from the GE so they don't have to make an alt account just to provide the Ironmen with bonds?
I've always been for this. I don't know how hard it would be to implement in the GE, but I do have an alternative that I've been musing about. I don't think I've actually spoken about it with many people internally either. What if we allowed you to buy it with money from Death's office coffers, but obviously took away the 5% extra that you got from sacrificing the item, right? So Ironmen could sacrifice their dupes to pay for bonds instead of dropping them to their main, because that's what they do, right? They drop their dupes to their main. This would just be reducing the extra steps. I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea.
I don't think the chat thinks that's a good idea.
It's an idea I've had. I think that it's basically the same as doing it from the G, except Iron Man needs the gold anyway, right? They have to farm raw GP. Hey, yeah, I have good ideas and I have bad ideas, and some people in chat might think it's a bad idea.
I think I'd have to think more about that. I don't see initially what damage that could cause, but who knows? Maybe chat always has their six head moments. So
more Iron Men might buy bonds, meaning the price of bonds might go up, which a lot of people in chat might not like because they don't play Iron Man and they want their bonds to stay cheaper, right? So,
to be fair, I think it was fairly split in the chat, the yeses and nos. So potentially,
I think it's an interesting idea, but
we have to wrap up. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to Mod Flippy's question for you, Mod West, which is asking if we could get Jad slippers. So tune in. Maybe next time Mod West is on stream, we can find the answer to that. Hey, let's go through the announcements. One quick round. We have released the Revenant Caves statement regarding the state of the Revenant Caves. Statement regarding the state of the Revenant Caves. You can find that in our game update news post from yesterday. Use the command !revs. Also, the Leagues 2 Trailblazer poll just was recently closed. Everything passed, including the POH room, the Graceful Recolor, the Relic Hunter outfit, and more. You can see more about those rewards with the !League poll command. We've also have the Gillinor Gazette for August, which is out now. We talk about roadmaps, partnerships, and introduce you to 3 new JMods. So if you want to read more about that, use the command !Gazette. And also, today, we released the Poll 73 blog, Joy. This features some changes to the Nightmare, Skull Scepter, and Chambers of Xeric. Use the command !Poll for more information. Finally, Prime Gaming is here. You can get 7 days of membership when you link your old school RuneScape account to Prime Gaming from now until October 13th. Use the command !Prime for more information. And that is it for the announcements. Everyone's still like laughing about the poll 73. This is not going to
I'm
end.
just spamming some joy in chat.
Okay, you do that.
I'm actually disappointed, right? We should have had way more meme questions on that poll, you know? Like, bring back the pixel icon or on the construction or something like that.
The thing is, we don't have to, because the poll is a meme itself. It's like, why overshine it, you know?
Yeah.
The blog title should just be Poll 73 Poll Blog. No way. And then see what happens.
The thing is, like, when's our next meme number, right? We had 69 and 73 quite close to each other. When's the next one, you know?
Oh,
1337, maybe?
No, that's a dated meme.
Oh wait, 420.
Chat is saying 420. Yeah. For sure, there must be something before 420, right?
We'll just skip all the other polls and go straight to that. That should be it. Just be like poll 73 straight to poll 420.
Poll 420 will just be a Herblore improvement poll, right? Herblore and farming.
If it's not, we missed the mark there. Alright, that is it for the live stream, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.